In order to start my project, I need to determine what the word orientation meant to me. I use this word map technique to jot down definitions, synonyms and quotations that help me find one I could relate to. The definition, awareness of the objective world in relation to oneself, stuck out to me as starting point to my project. I could use this to address issues of personal, political and sexual orientation and the conflicts within this. Immediately I found inspiration for the works based on this idea. A concept based on the saying, white woman's tears, referring to the situation where white women get flustered and crying, conversing about race and privilege. In this postmodern world, especially in a diverse place like London, race and minority discussions can happen a lot. I have a history in portraiture, and this project I want to explore my conceptual portraiture and move into a surrealist composition, hence the medium. This fits into orientation as it demonstrates a contemporary understanding of modern politics and how each person navigates themselves on a micro level. It's based on my experiences in having to traverse complicated conversations and relationships with these kind of people. Frida Kahlo. As I was planning on leaning into surrealist concepts in my work, where best to start than surrealist master Kahlo? There is a peaceful silence to her themes that she has used expertly to express the decay of female and class identity issues, among others. As she is such a well-known artist, I think it's insignificant for me to put her life into context. Instead, I'll discuss specifically what it is about her work that will influence mine in this project. Frida's work isn't all she is known for, yet benefits us in understanding her perspective that she preached as a person. She orientated herself out of the normal by being queer, being a communist activist, not conforming to monogamy, challenging beauty standards, and being strong besides her illness. The subject of her work did lots to inform the world that she was an individual from it. I wish to express this in my work, this project. Using her influence, I've decided to make many differing experimental works in different mediums and styles that will inform where my project will go. I Am series. Inspired by the mythologies of Frida, I wanted to make pieces addressing how we align ourselves based on society and their rules of gender and sexuality. Each person orients himself in gender performance every day in their hair, clothing style, etc. The ram's head represents the pre-evolution phase of the menstrual cycle, and visually similar to the uterus, yet the ram is Aries and traditionally masculine symbol. The idea that masculinity exists within the femininity. Women are both things, Mars as well as Venus. Based on my personal experience, women who are unable to have children or are prone to miscarriage often see themselves as less of a woman. They are told that they cannot do the one thing that women are designed to do. The piece addresses how the uterus can be male in its punishment and nature, and therefore these things do not affect femininity. Furthermore, women who are lesbians or just do not want children are not any less female because of not using their uterus in the traditional sense. Some men have uteruses and periods. Transgender men have this female organ in the uterus, yet the series aims to address that they are not any less male because of this female organ. The ram represents a lot of masculinity, meaning it shouldn't affect their gender performance, as our femininity and masculinity labels are totally arbitrary to our organs. The last piece shows a woman pregnant, and her ram's head is that of a living ram instead of a skull. It shows that while the uterus isn't a feminine organ and masculinity exists within it, it serves a very female system. For hundreds of years, women have carried this responsibility separate from men, yet not void of masculinity. This piece attempts to hint at this. Like Frida, I've experienced health issues and surgeries. This piece attempts to address my feelings around this and another exploration for a direction in which my project could go. Inspired by this quote my friend said to me, "As years go by, the lessons we learn teach us how to cope with our future." For this piece, I wanted to move away from realism once more. I formed these portraits of my sisters based on the theme that we have seen in the same traumas growing up. We're individuals who are extremely similar and the only people who have the exact experience as each other. We have inherited pain from our family, the war of our country, our personal griefs and shared childhood experiences. Our family sets us up for our beliefs and is the compass we use to orient ourselves in this world. In a kind of Freud way, these formative experiences inform how we acquaint to new experiences. This piece lends itself to a more realistic painting technique, allowing this realism to the composition. In theme, it addresses how each one of our actions has influenced the people around us. We are individuals, but it's the people we choose to hear that influence how we align ourselves in the world. As part of my experimentation, I believe it is important that I also explore portraiture that has moved away from realism entirely. The dissection of light and dark represents how we dissect identities in order to conform to several groups of society. Only here did I realise that I had been using red a whole lot, a through line in all my recent pieces. I learnt from these experimentations that I should explore other colours, to explore other themes. Tim Besson is a young contemporary painter based in London who often works with NGOs, painting around their ethos to spread awareness. On his website, Benson has the words "building awareness through painting" prominently featured. I chose to be influenced by his work, as this is the same kind of activist messages that I attempt to make in my work. The Art Academy described his work, stating he's never satisfied with simple representation, rather concentrating on bringing to his work an emotive and often visceral quality. In 2018, he did a project called Visions of Zambia, where he travelled to a Zambian hospital and painted the portraits of those afflicted with cataracts and other sight-taking issues who were going through treatment to tell their stories. He collaborates with the charity Orbis in the project. This is similar to the way in which I would like to make my series. I'm a big fan of his expressive style and contemporary use of colour. I believe Benson also fits into my definitions of orientation. He uses his work and his platform to focus on the intentional issues he cares about. He's explaining the position on societal issues and the direction he takes in certain subjects. I will attempt to do this, even exaggerate it. With Benson's influence, I decided I wanted to make portraits with very obvious paint strokes by exploring abstract colouring. It was the first attempt at an introductory painting. While I'm not wholly satisfied with the outcome, I'm glad of how it will inform my future works in response to Benson. As further response to Benson, I've decided to make a series that explores political themes. This series attempts to address how women relate their image to the world. Our bodies are of course sexualized, but our faces are trivialized. Each woman is made to feel distant and unimportant from their unique properties. Their faces are the most prominent way in which this is done in our society. Each woman has to decide to what degree Photoshop to use, has to confront how they see their face. Not only does social media have filters that tend to whitewash features of the skin, even standard phone cameras use AI to make more satisfactory image according to societal definitions. Of course, this affects men in the image too, but women's image is marketed as a product and a commodity, meaning it taints them more effectively. This train of thought was brought about by the new regulations that Instagram is introducing on declaring whether an image is photoshopped due to Khloe Kardashian's misleading images that look nothing like her actual face. In these compositions, the women have versions of their faces that are more ethnocentric, more conforming to beauty standards, leaning away from unique features or void of makeup. This illustrates the way in which women have to assimilate to expectations of their image. Denis Sarrazin is an accomplished Ukrainian artist born in 1982. He does incredible portraits of surrealist-inspired compositions that have an intimate knowledge of anatomy, as well as a precise style that many have compared to Egon Schiele. Despite many of his works tending towards realism, I appreciated his looser, more figurative works, as shown here. He has an incredible understanding of movement of form, as well as the interaction between two bodies. This is very inspiring to my work. Sarrazin said, "I build my compositions more from the ideas and feelings than from characters themselves. This informs how I build a composition inspired by his work. I've begun to do this in the series previously in the project, and I will fully flesh this out in my next work." These are practice studies of colour and style that inform how I paint my Sarrazin-inspired composition. I chose Sarrazin because I wanted to explore an interaction to close my project. A big part of orientation to me is the idea of knowing where you are, as well as sexual orientation. In my life right now, I'm experiencing a crossroads and a questioning of my personal orientation, a splintering of my personality. The portrait demonstrates the visualization of it using the style of painting and colour I've learnt from the different artists in this project.